A real pickle requires three ingredients: cucumbers, water, and salt. That is it. You submerge cucumbers in a salt brine and you wait days or weeks while naturally occurring lactobacillus bacteria on the cucumber skins convert sugars into lactic acid. The result is a fermented pickle, alive with probiotics, tangy with a complex flavor, and preserved by the same natural process that has kept food safe for thousands of years. No vinegar, no preservatives, no chemicals, just cucumbers, salt water, and thyme. But pick up the most popular pickle in America, a jar of Vlasic kosher dill spears, and read the ingredient list. Cucumbers, water, distilled vinegar, salt, calcium chloride, sodium benzoate, polysorbate 80, natural flavor, and turmeric extract for color. That is 9 ingredients for a product that needs 3. The vinegar, the very first acid on the list, kills every beneficial bacterium that would have made this a genuinely fermented food. The pickle is sour. It is not alive. It contains 0 probiotics. The vast majority of Americans who eat pickles have no idea there is a difference. According to the Journal of Food Science, only 35% of commercial pickled vegetables use fermentation. The remaining 65% are vinegar pickles, quick processed products soaked in acetic acid for speed and shelf stability. The pickles in your refrigerator door, on your burger, and in your relish are almost certainly not fermented. They are cucumbers soaked in vinegar and chemicals, pasteurized and preserved to sit on a shelf for years. They look like pickles. They taste like pickles. They are not what your great-grandmother would have recognized as a pickle. Today we are opening 15 pickle brands and industry practices that deserve a closer look, sharing 5 rules for spotting real pickles and 5 brands that still do it right. Let us get started. Number 15. Great value pickles sold at Walmart. They are among the cheapest options on any American shelf. Walmart reported revenues exceeding $648 billion in fiscal 2024. Their dill pickles contain cucumbers, water, distilled vinegar, salt, calcium chloride, sodium benzoate as a preservative, polysorbate 80, natural flavors, and yellow number 5, VFC. Yellow number 5 is the same petroleum-based synthetic dye that the FDA and the Department of Health and Human Services announced they would phase out of the food supply in April 2025. The HHS secretary called these dyes poisonous chemicals that offer no nutritional benefit. It is added to pickles solely to make them appear a brighter, more vivid green than vinegar-soaked cucumbers would naturally be. Sodium benzoate is a chemical preservative that, when combined with ascorbic acid or citric acid, can form benzene, a known carcinogen. Polysorbate 80 is a synthetic emulsifier, also used in vaccines, cosmetics, and cleaning products. A $648 billion company putting petroleum dyes and synthetic emulsifiers in a product that needs 3 ingredients is not a cost limitation. It is a choice. Number 14. Mount Olive Pickles. Mount Olive Pickle Company, based in Mount Olive, North Carolina, is the largest independently owned pickle company in the United States. Their pickles are widely available in grocery stores nationwide at budget-friendly prices. Mount Olive kosher dill ingredients include cucumbers, water, vinegar, calcium chloride, sodium benzoate, alum, natural flavors, polysorbate 80, and yellow number 5. Sodium benzoate shows up multiple times across their lineup. Their Sweet Gherkin's no sugar added variety replaces sugar with sucralose, the artificial sweetener marketed as Splenda while retaining yellow number 5, polysorbate 80, xanthan gum, and sodium benzoate. Splenda appears on ingredient lists where you might expect plain sugar. Alum, or aluminum potassium sulfate, is a firming agent added to commercial pickles to maintain crunchiness. While the FDA considers it generally safe in small amounts, it is an aluminum compound, and dietary aluminum exposure has been studied in connection with neurological concerns. The European Food Safety Authority has established a tolerable weekly intake for aluminum, and some researchers have recommended minimizing unnecessary dietary exposure, particularly for older adults. Mount Olive recently introduced some varieties without certified food color additives. But the company's core product line remains built on vinegar, chemical preservatives, synthetic emulsifiers, and petroleum dyes, none of which belong in a cucumber that spent time in salt brine. Number 13. Vlasic pickles are among the most recognizable in America. The brand is famous for its stork mascot and for a tagline that promises the best pickles in the world. Vlasic is owned by Conagra Brands, a multinational food corporation with annual revenues exceeding $12 billion. The company also owns Slim Jim, Healthy Choice, Banquet, Ready Whip, Hunt's, Payem, and dozens of other processed food brands. The Vlasic brand itself dates back to the early 1900s and was built by the Vlasic family in Michigan. It was later acquired by Campbell's Soup, then Pinnacle Foods, and finally Conagra in a $4.9 billion acquisition in 2018. Vlasic kosher dill spears contain cucumbers, water, distilled vinegar, salt, calcium chloride, sodium benzoate, polysorbate 80, natural flavor, and turmeric extract for color. Some older formulations and certain varieties still contain yellow number 5. The brand has been transitioning some products to turmeric extract as a coloring agent. While turmeric extract is a natural colorant and a significant improvement over petroleum dyes, its presence raises the same fundamental question we have asked about annatto in butter and artificial coloring in every other food category we have covered. Why does a pickle need coloring at all? A naturally fermented cucumber in salt brine develops its own color through the biochemical changes of lactic acid fermentation. The coloring exists because the vinegar process strips the cucumber of its natural appearance. Manufacturers then add color back to make the product look like what consumers expect a pickle to look like. The Ingredient Inspector, an independent food analysis organization, notes that Vlasic pickles contain calcium chloride as a chemical firming agent, polysorbate 80 as a man-made emulsifying agent, added natural flavor, and coloring. None of these ingredients appear in homemade pickles or traditionally fermented pickles from artisan producers. Number 12. Heinz Pickles, Kraft Heinz. Heinz pickles are made by Kraft Heinz, a multinational food corporation with annual revenues exceeding $26 billion. Heinz genuine dill spears contain fresh cucumbers, water, distilled white vinegar, salt, sodium benzoate, garlic extract, gum acacia, calcium chloride, natural flavoring, polysorbate 80, and yellow number 5. Gum acacia is a natural thickener derived from the sap of the acacia tree. It is not harmful, but its presence in a pickle alongside polysorbate 80, calcium chloride, sodium benzoate, natural flavoring, and petroleum dye illustrates how far commercial pickles have traveled from the 3-ingredient original. A product that needs cucumbers, salt, and water now contains 11 ingredients, including a synthetic preservative, a synthetic emulsifier, a chemical firming agent, a natural thickener, an artificial dye, and unspecified natural flavoring. Kraft Heinz has the resources and the food science capability to produce a simple pickle with 3 or 4 ingredients. They choose not to because the chemical approach is cheaper, faster, and extends shelf life beyond what natural fermentation allows. Number 11. Claussen Pickles. Claussen pickles are refrigerated, which leads many health-conscious consumers to believe they are fermented, or at least closer to a traditional, natural product than the shelf-stable brands sitting in the center aisles. Claussen has built its premium positioning around its refrigerated format, crisp texture, and the implied suggestion that cold storage means a fresher, less processed product. Claussen is owned by Kraft Heinz, the same multinational food corporation that owns Heinz Pickles, Philadelphia Cream Cheese, and dozens of other processed food brands, with annual revenues exceeding $26 billion. Claussen kosher dill spears contain cucumbers, water, distilled vinegar, salt, calcium chloride, dried garlic, natural flavor, and in some varieties, high fructose corn syrup. The refrigeration is not because the pickles are alive with beneficial bacteria, like a truly fermented product. It is because Claussen pickles are not pasteurized, meaning they were never heat processed for shelf stability. This preserves their crisp, snappy texture, which is genuinely superior to most shelf-stable brands. But the vinegar in the brine kills any lactobacillus bacteria that might have been present on the cucumber skins. The result is a crispy, tangy, unfermented pickle that must be kept cold because it lacks both the pasteurization of shelf-stable brands and the natural preservation of fermented brands. It exists in a middle ground that is neither traditional nor fully industrial. Clausen is better than many shelf-stable brands. The ingredient list is shorter, the texture is superior, and the flavor is more complex. But the product is not fermented. It contains no probiotics and no live cultures, and it is still fundamentally a vinegar pickle enhanced with calcium chloride, natural flavor, and in some cases high fructose corn syrup. Consumers who buy Clausen thinking they are getting a traditional fermented pickle, the kind their grandparents would have pulled from a crock in the cellar, are paying a premium for crunch and refrigeration, not for live cultures or traditional cheese making. We are halfway through this list and the biggest problems are still ahead. If this is changing how you think about the pickle aisle, share this video. Everyone who reaches for a pickle deserves to know what is actually in the jar. Let us continue. Number 10. The fermentation fraud industry-wide. This is the single most important fact about pickles in America, and it is the fact that the industry has the least incentive to explain. The vast majority of commercial pickles are not fermented. According to data from the Journal of Food Science, only 35% of commercial pickled vegetables use fermentation. The remaining 65% are vinegar pickles, made by soaking cucumbers in a solution of acetic acid for speed, consistency, and shelf stability. Vinegar pickling can be done in hours or days. Natural fermentation takes 1 to 4 weeks. The economics of industrial food production favor the faster method, regardless of what the consumer loses in the process. Fermented pickles are made with cucumbers, water, and salt. No vinegar, no preservatives, no emulsifiers. Naturally occurring lactobacillus bacteria that live on the surface of the cucumber skins consume the sugars in the vegetable and convert them into lactic acid over days or weeks, creating an acidic environment that preserves the food naturally. Research published in the Annals of Microbiology found that the bacterial population in a fermenting pickle jar typically reaches approximately 200 million colony-forming units per milliliter by the 6th day, and maintains that level through at least 18 days. The dominant species, Lactoplantobacillus plantarum and Pediococcus pentosaceus, function as both flavor producers and genuine probiotics. A 12-week clinical trial involving 230 women tested the effects of consuming approximately 50 grams per day of fermented pickles, roughly 2 to 3 pickle spears, and found measurable probiotic benefits for digestive health. Independent laboratory testing by All of My Pickle found that a single serving of their fermented pickles contained between 12 and 14 billion colony-forming units of beneficial bacteria, comparable to what you would find in a high-quality probiotic supplement capsule. The probiotics were higher in the brine and higher when the pickles were kept properly refrigerated. Vinegar pickles skip the fermentation process entirely. Cucumbers are submerged in a vinegar brine that creates immediate acidity without any bacterial activity. The vinegar is antimicrobial. It kills both harmful and beneficial bacteria with equal efficiency. The resulting product is sour and shelf-stable but contains 0 probiotics and 0 live cultures. It is biologically dead food that looks and tastes similar to fermented pickles, but delivers none of the gut health benefits that have made fermented foods one of the hottest categories in the health food market. For seniors who eat pickles specifically because they have heard that fermented foods support digestive health, immune function, and microbiome diversity, the distinction between fermented and vinegar pickles is not a minor technicality. It is the difference between a functional food that delivers billions of beneficial bacteria per serving and a condiment that delivers vinegar, sodium benzoate, and polysorbate 80. If the ingredient list contains vinegar, the pickle is not fermented, period, regardless of any other claims, imagery, or suggestions on the label. Number 9. The polysorbate 80 problem. Polysorbate 80, also known as Tween 80, is a synthetic emulsifier found in most major pickle brands including Vlasic, Mott Olive, Heinz, Great Value, Signature Select, and many other store brands. It is added to pickles to help disperse added flavors and artificial colorings evenly throughout the brine, preventing them from separating or settling to the bottom of the jar during the months or years the product may sit on a shelf. Research published in the journal Nature in 2015 by Georgia State University, researchers found that dietary emulsifiers, including polysorbate 80, can disrupt the gut microbiome and promote intestinal inflammation in animal studies. The study reported that mice consuming polysorbate 80 at concentrations lower than those approved for use in food exhibited thinning of the protective mucus layer of the intestine, changes in gut bacteria composition associated with metabolic syndrome, and increased markers of intestinal inflammation. A follow-up study published in 2021 confirmed that emulsifiers, including polysorbate 80, altered the gut microbiome in ways that promoted low-grade inflammation, even at levels significantly below the FDA-approved maximum. The FDA considers polysorbate 80 generally recognized as safe at the levels currently used in food. The agency has not changed its position in response to the animal research, citing the difficulty of extrapolating animal findings to humans at typical dietary exposure levels. But the animal evidence is consistent, peer-reviewed, and published in one of the most prestigious scientific journals in the world. The irony is significant and worth repeating. Consumers who eat pickles believing they are supporting their gut health may be consuming a synthetic emulsifier that peer-reviewed research suggests could damage the very gut lining that fermented foods are supposed to protect. Polysorbate 80 exists in pickles solely because the manufacturer added artificial colors and natural flavors that need an emulsifier to stay dispersed in the brine. Remove the dyes and the flavoring compounds, and the emulsifier becomes completely unnecessary. The problem creates itself, and the solution creates another problem. Number 8. The sodium benzoate question. Sodium benzoate is a chemical preservative found in most commercial pickle brands, including Vlasic, Mont Olive, Heinz, Great Value, and numerous store brands. It is the sodium salt of benzoic acid, and it prevents microbial growth by entering bacterial cells and disrupting their ability to ferment glucose, reducing the rate of bacterial fermentation by up to 95%. This is precisely why it is added to vinegar pickles to ensure that any remaining bacteria cannot alter the product during its potentially years-long shelf life in a warehouse or on a grocery store shelf. The primary health concern with sodium benzoate centers on its potential to form benzene, a known human carcinogen classified as Group 1 by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, when combined with ascorbic acid or citric acid under certain conditions, including heat and light exposure. The FDA investigated benzene formation in soft drinks in 2006 and found levels above the 5 parts per billion safety threshold in some products, leading to reformulations across the beverage industry. While pickles are not typically high in ascorbic acid on their own, the combination risk increases when pickles are consumed alongside vitamin C-rich foods in the same meal, such as tomatoes, peppers, or citrus fruits in a salad or sandwich. A 2007 study published in The Lancet, often called the Southampton study, linked the combination of sodium benzoate with certain food dyes, specifically yellow number 5, to increased hyperactivity in children ages 3 and 8 through 9. Both ingredients appear together in Vlasic, Mont Olive, Heinz, Great Value, and multiple other pickle brands. The European Union reviewed this research, and it contributed to the European Union's decision to require warning labels on products containing these dyes. For seniors, the fundamental question is this. Salt and fermentation have preserved pickles safely for thousands of years without any chemical preservatives. Sodium benzoate was introduced because vinegar pickling alone does not provide adequate long-term preservation, and manufacturers wanted products that could sit on shelves for years without spoiling. The preservative solves a problem that the traditional fermentation method never created. Number 7. The yellow number 5 dye. Yellow number 5, also known as tartrazine, has been added to commercial pickles for decades to make them appear a brighter, more vivid green than vinegar-soaked cucumbers naturally achieve. When a cucumber is soaked in vinegar, it loses some of its natural green color and takes on a duller, more olive-toned appearance. Yellow number 5 counteracts this by adding a bright yellow tint that, combined with the cucumber's remaining green, produces the vivid green color that consumers have been trained to associate with pickles. It is one of the 6 petroleum-based synthetic dyes that the FDA and the Department of Health and Human Services announced they would phase out from the American food supply in April 2025. The HHS secretary called these dyes poisonous chemicals that offer no nutritional benefit. The European Union has required warning labels on products containing yellow number 5 since 2010, stating that it may have adverse effects on activity and attention in children. Studies published in The Lancet linked yellow number 5 in combination with sodium benzoate to increased hyperactivity in children. Multiple American states, including West Virginia and California, have moved to ban synthetic dyes from school meals. And yet, as of 2026, yellow number 5 remains in pickle jars from Mant Olive, Great Value, Heinz, Signature Select, and other major brands across America. Some brands, including recent Vlasic reformulations, have replaced yellow number 5 with turmeric extract, a natural colorant derived from the turmeric root. This is a genuine improvement, but it does not address the fundamental question that applies to every artificially colored food. Why does a pickle need coloring at all? A fermented pickle develops its own natural color through the biochemical changes that occur during lactic acid fermentation. A pickle that needs a dye to look right, whether that dye comes from petroleum or from a root, is a pickle that has been processed so far from its natural state that it no longer resembles food without cosmetic intervention. Number 6. The calcium chloride crunch. Calcium chloride is the most common firming agent in commercial pickles. It appears on virtually every major brand's ingredient list. It is added because vinegar pickling softens the cucumber's cell walls, producing a mushy texture that consumers reject. Calcium chloride cross-links with pectin in the cucumber's cell walls, maintaining the firm, crunchy texture that consumers associate with quality pickles. Calcium chloride is classified as generally recognized as safe by the FDA. It is not considered harmful at the levels used in food, but its ubiquitous presence in commercial pickles is a marker of a process that creates a problem and then solves it with a chemical. Naturally fermented pickles maintain their crunch through the fermentation process itself. Lactic acid fermentation preserves the cucumber's structure more gently than vinegar, and fermented pickles are renowned for their crunch without any firming agents. When you see calcium chloride on a pickle label, you are seeing evidence that the manufacturing process damaged the cucumber's texture and needed a chemical fix. The fix works, but the damage would not have occurred if the pickle had been made the traditional way. Number 5. The natural flavor deception. Most commercial pickle brands list natural flavor or natural flavors on their ingredient labels. In a product that should taste like dill, garlic, and cucumber, the presence of unspecified natural flavors is a transparency problem that most consumers never question. Under FDA regulations, natural flavors can be derived from any natural source, including plant, animal, or microbial sources, through industrial processes such as distillation, fermentation, enzymatic reactions, roasting, heating, and solvent extraction. The term encompasses over 1,000 possible flavoring compounds as defined in the Code of Federal Regulations. In commercial pickles, natural flavor often replaces actual dill, actual garlic, actual peppercorns, and actual mustard seed with concentrated flavor compounds that are cheaper, more shelf-stable, and more consistent from batch to batch than using real herbs and spices. The ingredient inspector has specifically noted that Vlasic's label boasts classic dill taste with the word taste emphasized rather than actual dill, and that many commercial pickle brands use natural flavor instead of real herbs. Real pickles do not need natural flavors. They need dill. They need garlic. They need peppercorns and mustard seed. These are the traditional spices that have flavored pickles for centuries, and they cost pennies per jar. When a company replaces real spices with natural flavor, they are choosing a laboratory over a garden, and the consumer is paying for a flavor compound instead of the real thing. Number 4. The high fructose corn syrup in sweet pickles. Sweet pickles, bread and butter pickles, and relish often contain high fructose corn syrup or large amounts of added sugar. Some brands contain more sugar per serving than a chocolate chip cookie. Vlasic bread and butter spears, no sugar added, replace sugar with sucralose, the artificial sweetener marketed as Splenda, while still including yellow number 5 and calcium chloride. Mat olive sweet gherkins, no sugar added, follow the same pattern, substituting sucralose for sugar. The no sugar added label implies a healthier product, but sucralose brings its own debate. Research on artificial sweeteners and gut microbiome disruption is ongoing, with some studies suggesting that sucralose may alter beneficial gut bacteria populations. Traditional sweet pickles are made with a modest amount of sugar, vinegar, and vinegar and spices. They do not require high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, petroleum dyes, or synthetic emulsifiers. When a sweet pickle contains corn syrup, yellow number 5, polysorbate 80, and sodium benzoate, it has become a processed food product that happens to contain a cucumber, not a preserved cucumber that happens to be sweet. Number 3. Store brand pickles, industry-wide. Kroger, Aldi, Safeway Signature Select, Target Good and Gather, and virtually every other store brand pickle are contract manufactured by a small number of large processors. Treehouse Foods, headquartered in Oak Brook, Illinois, is the largest private label food manufacturer in the United States. It produces pickles, sauces, dressings, coffee, and dozens of other products for retailers across the country. Treehouse Foods produces pickles under hundreds of different brand names for retailers who simply slap their own labels on the same product. When you stand in the pickle aisle comparing Kroger pickles to Aldi pickles to Safeway Signature Select pickles, reading ingredient lists that look nearly identical, noting that they all contain vinegar, calcium chloride, sodium benzoate, polysorbate 80, and yellow number 5 or turmeric extract in nearly the same order, you may be comparing the exact same product from the exact same factory, with nothing different but the label and the price. This is the same contract manufacturing opacity we have documented across every food category in this series, from eggs to cream cheese to sardines to tuna. The consumer believes they are exercising choice in a competitive market. The market is offering the illusion of choice from a concentrated supply chain. The brand name is a marketing decision. The pickle inside the jar is a commodity. Number 2. The sodium bomb. A single pickle spear can contain 200 to 400 milligrams of sodium, depending on the brand, size, and whether it is a dill, kosher, or bread and butter variety. A whole dill pickle can contain 700 to over 1,000 milligrams, approaching or exceeding half the American Heart Association recommended daily limit of 1,500 milligrams for adults over 50 with hypertension or cardiovascular risk factors. The general FDA daily value for sodium is 2,300 milligrams, meaning a single large pickle can deliver 30 to 45% of the entire daily allowance. For seniors managing hypertension, heart failure, kidney disease, or fluid retention, the sodium in pickles is a serious concern that the small size of the product disguises. A pickle does not feel like a high-sodium food. It feels like a small, harmless snack on the side of a plate or tucked into a sandwich. But 2 pickles with a sandwich can deliver more sodium than the rest of the meal combined, and many seniors eat pickles daily without considering their contribution to overall sodium intake. Fermented pickles also contain sodium because salt is essential to the fermentation process. The salt creates the environment that favors beneficial lactobacillus bacteria while suppressing harmful pathogens. But fermented pickles typically contain less sodium per serving than commercial vinegar pickles because the fermentation process can work with a lower salt concentration than vinegar brines require for preservation and flavor. A typical fermentation brine uses 2 to 3 tablespoons of salt per quart of water, while commercial vinegar pickles often add salt beyond what preservation requires for flavor enhancement. Regardless of the type, anyone monitoring sodium intake should check the nutrition label carefully and treat pickles as a significant sodium source, not a negligible garnish. Number 1. The 3-ingredient test. The most important thing to know about pickles is this. A real pickle requires 3 ingredients: cucumbers, water, and salt. Add dill, garlic, peppercorns, and mustard seed for flavor. That is a complete pickle. Everything beyond these basics exists for the benefit of the manufacturer. Distilled vinegar replaces the natural lactic acid that fermentation produces, eliminating probiotics and requiring preservatives to compensate. Calcium chloride compensates for the mushiness that vinegar creates. Polysorbate 80 disperses the artificial colors and flavors that were added because the vinegar process stripped the cucumber of its natural appearance and taste. Sodium benzoate prevents the microbial growth that salt and fermentation handle naturally. Yellow number 5 makes the pickle look greener than a vinegar-soaked cucumber would otherwise be. And natural flavor replaces the actual dill and garlic that real pickles contain. Every chemical on the ingredient list exists to solve a problem that the previous chemical created. Remove the vinegar and you do not need the preservatives. Remove the preservatives and you do not need the emulsifier. Remove the artificial color and you do not need the emulsifier either. The entire chain of additives collapses when you make the pickle the way it has been made for 3,000 years. Cucumbers, water, salt, time. 5 rules to spot real pickles. Rule 1. If it contains vinegar, it is not fermented. This is the single most reliable test. Vinegar kills the lactobacillus bacteria that produce probiotics during fermentation. If vinegar appears on the ingredient list, the pickle contains 0 live cultures, regardless of any other claims on the label. Rule 2. Real fermented pickles belong in the refrigerated section. Fermented pickles are perishable, and they must be kept cold throughout the entire supply chain. If a pickle is sitting on a shelf at room temperature, it was preserved with vinegar and heat processed for shelf stability. It is not fermented. Rule 3. The ingredient list should be 5 items or fewer. Cucumbers, water, salt, dill, and garlic. That is a complete pickle. If the list exceeds 5 ingredients, the product has been processed beyond what a pickle needs to be. Rule 4. Avoid any pickle with polysorbate 80, sodium benzoate, or yellow number 5. These 3 additives appear together in most major pickle brands. None of them belong in a jar of pickles. Their presence is a marker of industrial processing that prioritizes shelf life and cosmetic appearance over food quality. Rule 5. Look for the words raw, unpasteurized, or live cultures on the label. These terms indicate that the pickle was not heat processed and may contain living probiotic bacteria. They are the most meaningful words on a fermented pickle label and the clearest signal that you are buying a real pickle. 5 pickle brands that do it right. Number 1. Bubby's Kosher Dill Pickles. Bubby's has been making naturally fermented pickles for over 30 years. Their kosher dill and baby kosher dill pickles are lacto-fermented in salt brine with no vinegar, no preservatives, and no artificial anything. The ingredient list is cucumbers, water, salt, dill, garlic, and spices. They are raw, unpasteurized, and contain live probiotic cultures. Note that Bubby's bread and butter pickles and spicy dill pickles are made with vinegar and are not fermented. Around $5 to $7 per jar, they are widely available in the refrigerated section. Number 2. Grillo's Pickles. Grillo's pickles are made with fresh cucumbers, water, vinegar, garlic, salt, dill, grape leaves, and calcium chloride. They are not fermented, and they do contain vinegar, but they are free of sodium benzoate, polysorbate 80, yellow number 5, natural flavors, and high fructose corn syrup. The ingredient inspector has certified Grillo's classic dill as closest to homemade. They cost around $5 to $6 per jar in the refrigerated section. Number 3. Real Pickles Organic Dill Pickles. Real Pickles, based in Greenfield, Massachusetts, produces certified organic, lacto-fermented raw pickles with no vinegar. Ingredients are organic cucumbers, filtered water, unrefined sea salt, organic dill, organic garlic, black pepper, chile pepper, fennel seed, bay leaf, and cinnamon. These are genuine fermented pickles with live cultures, made in small batches using traditional methods. They are available in the Northeast and online, priced around $7 to $9 per jar. Number 4. Olive My Pickle. Olive My Pickle is a small batch producer based in Jacksonville, Florida, making raw lacto-fermented pickles since 2010. Independent lab testing found their fermented pickles contain between 12 and 14 billion colony-forming units of beneficial bacteria per serving, comparable to a probiotic supplement. Ingredients are fresh cucumbers, Mediterranean sea salt, filtered water, garlic, and dill. They are available at select Whole Foods locations and online, around $8 to $10 per jar. Number 5. Pickles you ferment yourself. The best pickles are the ones you make in your own kitchen. Pack small, firm cucumbers tightly into a clean mason jar with fresh dill, garlic cloves, and peppercorns. Dissolve 2 to 3 tablespoons of non-iodized salt per quart of filtered water, and pour the brine over the cucumbers until fully submerged. Cover loosely to allow gas to escape, and leave at room temperature for 3 to 7 days. Taste daily until the sourness reaches your preference, then transfer to the refrigerator. Total cost, approximately $2 per jar. Total ingredients, cucumbers, water, salt, dill, garlic. Total additives, 0. Total probiotics, billions. The pickle is one of the oldest preserved foods in human history. Cucumbers were pickled in Mesopotamia over 4,000 years ago. Cleopatra credited pickles for her health and beauty. Roman soldiers ate them on long marches across Europe. Christopher Columbus rationed pickles on his ships to prevent scurvy among his crew. Sailors and soldiers across centuries packed fermented cucumbers because they knew, long before the science of microbiology existed, that these preserved foods kept people healthy in ways that other provisions did not. We now know why. The lactobacillus bacteria in fermented pickles support the gut microbiome, the immune system, and digestive function. Our ancestors understood the effect. Modern science has confirmed the mechanism, but the modern pickle aisle has replaced that ancient tradition with an industrial shortcut that strips away every health benefit the original provided. Vinegar instead of fermentation. Polyorbate 80 instead of patience. Yellow number 5 instead of natural color. Sodium benzoate instead of salt. Natural flavor instead of actual dill. Calcium chloride instead of the natural crunch that proper fermentation preserves. The result is a product that looks like a pickle and tastes like a pickle, but is biologically dead, chemically preserved, and nutritionally empty compared to the fermented original that has sustained human health for millennia. 65% of the pickles on American grocery shelves are not fermented. They contain 0 probiotics. They contain 0 live cultures. They deliver 0 of the gut health benefits that have made fermented foods one of the most studied and most recommended categories in modern nutrition science. And the labels do not tell you any of this because the word pickle has been allowed to mean both a living fermented food and a chemically preserved vinegar product, and the industry benefits from the confusion. You deserve a pickle with 3 ingredients. You deserve a pickle that is alive with the same beneficial bacteria that have supported human digestion for 4,000 years. You deserve to know whether the jar on your shelf contains a genuinely fermented food or a vinegar-soaked cucumber dyed green with petroleum and emulsified with a compound that peer-reviewed research in Nature has linked to intestinal inflammation. Check the ingredients, look for the refrigerated section, count the items on the label, and the next time you reach for a jar of pickles, ask yourself whether you are buying food that is alive or a product that was never given the chance to be. Because in this aisle, the difference is everything. And remember, the truth is not always on the menu.